let's now go to the first part of this Positivity Congress. Headliner 1, the power of resilience. Okay. I'd like to introduce to you our speaker. Our speaker, Mr. Bosco, or architect Bosco Gutierrez Cortina, is a Mexican architect and entrepreneur whose kidnapping in August 1990 and subsequent escape deeply shocked Mexican society. At that time, he was 33 years old and the father of 7 children. He is the founder and principal of Bosco Arquitectos since January 1983. His main responsibilities include the promotion of new projects and the design and planning of the architectural firm company. He has received several awards for his outstanding architectural work. During his 9-month kidnapping, he was kept inside a 3 square meter hideout. Can you imagine that? So hard to imagine. He transformed his experience into an opportunity to show his dignity as a person. He also struggled to strengthen his ideals during his captivity. In his testimony, he speaks of how his faith in God and love for his family gave him the necessary strength to carry on and not lose his mind, making him an exemplary example of courage, perseverance, and human dignity. And so here to talk to us about breaking barriers with an unbreakable spirit, please welcome architect Bosco Gutierrez. Welcome to the Congress, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your invitation. How are you?
Very well.
Nice talking to you. I'm here from Mexico. I'm actually on Thursday night. I understand you are on Friday morning. So you're at night, you're in the morning. But I'm very proud of being here in front of you all people, and I'm thankful for your hearing today. So as you want, I can start. I'm going to share some photographs of my experience, so I can go alone with the photographs to try to tell you the story. This will help us to illustrate my story. Some images are real, photographs of my personal situation, and some photographs are taken from a movie made out of my story. So you will see some other face put in the kidnapped that I was, because this is an artist. So I could not have any photographs, obviously, of my internal situation, other than the proofs of life that I have that recuperated, obviously, because they sent to my family and I have them. But rather than those photographs of the kidnappers, I don't have them. And this that I show right here illustrate how they looked and how the room was. By the way, I can tell you that the movie, I was kidnapped in a very, very small room. The room was 1 meter by 3 meters, only 3 square meters. I stayed there for 9 months, and I had no natural light. I had no natural ventilation. I had only a bulb, a light, and the yellow light being controlled by the outside. So I had to live naked for 5 months, and after they gave me some basic underwear and a t-shirt, and finally I end up a little more dressed. But I lived like 4 months naked, totally naked. So this is the story. I'm going to try to be very, very narrative. I will try to do this pretty much as long as I can, short as I can, I mean. And after that, I'm welcome you to ask me any question that will help us to realize that this experience is just about how I think we have to live right now regarding our personal situation in the pandemic situation we are living. And I think it's very important to understand that the freedom is inside ourselves, is not about the physical situations, but because of our faith, because of our love, that would actually give us freedom. And that's what I discovered inside this kidnap. So I'm going to try to go ahead this presentation, so you feel free to ask anything that you may want. And I'm going to start right now. So welcome and thank you very much for this. So this is okay. We start. I was kidnapped. I stayed, as I said, 257 days, and this was the 29th of August, 1990. Christine, can you see the presentation well? Are you okay? Are you watching at the presentation? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I stayed there from the 29th of 1990 to the 12th of May 1991. By that time, I had 7 children, married with Gabby, and 7 children. After the kidnap, fortunately, we got 2 more children, so we had a total of 9 children. We were blessed with 9 children. So as you know, there were a lot of reasons why to fight and why to come back to this beautiful family. I was leaving Gabby with only 29 years old and 7 little children. This photograph was taken about 1 month before my kidnap. So imagine what I had behind me and what I needed to fight back and return to my family as soon as I could. 3 days before the kidnap, and this is a photograph taken the 26th of August 1990, actually 3 days before my kidnap, without knowing obviously, I run the Mexico City Marathon. I was just a daily runner. I used to run 1 marathon a year, in which gave me the discipline of running 42 Ks, 26.2 miles. But it's important because that's a philosophy of fighting. That's a philosophy of training. And I think physically I was in a very, very good condition. And this was only 3 days before my kidnap. The day of my kidnap, just about 30 minutes before I was kidnapped, I attend to my daily mass. I am Catholic. I try to begin every day just before going to office to my architectural firm. I try to start every day going to 8 a.m. mass. This church is about very, very close from my home, between my home and my office. So my routine was going to mass every day, organize my ideas, put myself in God's hand as I could. I had some concerns at that time. I think concerns are always with us. That's part of our lives. And I think the daily mass for me was a very important place to put all my worries and just to put myself in God's hands every day. I didn't know 30 minutes after this mass, just 30 minutes after, I was in this other situation. These are photographs from the movie. And this looks like, when I was coming into the car, suddenly some people grabbed me behind myself. Some other gave me an important hit on my mouth with a gun. I was deeply hurt in my mouth. They covered my mouth, they covered my eyes, they put a blanket around me, and I spent in the trunk of the car about 6 hours. By that time, your mind really puts you in a very, very bad situation. I was shocked. I did not process what was happening to me. Suddenly you think that this is the end of your life. I just said to God, well, God, take care of my family, take care of Gabby. This is it. I'm in your hands, whatever. And it really, I was in a tremendous shocked situation. After the 6 hours, they put me in a little room, and suddenly, when I opened my eyes, I found that I was guarded by 5 people. These 5 people, these 5 guards, were covered with white sheet, as like Ku Klux Klan masks. They had white robes. I only could see their eyes. One of them had long hair, the one in front, the other one behind, a taller guy. This was like the boss. There was this other guy. These were the three guards that actually were more in contact with me. I was in a very, very small room. The room was only 3 by 1. They turned on the light suddenly as their wish. They turn on and they control the light. I spent sometimes long periods of time in darkness, some periods of times in light. I received some instructions, and they said to me, okay, you are kidnapped. You have to read this communication to your family, and that communication gave instructions to my family to pay a ransom, to be disciplined, not to do anything wrong against their instructions, because my life was in danger, and they had to follow orders, and I had to behave okay. And they said, okay, if your family doesn't act as we ask, you're dead. Next week we're going to process what your family answers, and if they don't answer any of our requests, then you die next week. So suddenly you are trapped in a very, very deep situation. Actually, I was very angry, very hurt, shocked to the 100%. I couldn't even pray anything, because I was like a revolution inside of me, and well, very, very difficult. After that, they asked me to answer some questions about my family. They wanted information about Gabby, about my children, about their schools, about their daily routine. They asked me, what is the type of car that your wife drives every day? What are the destinies that she goes to, the routes, all the details about my family, about my children, about the pets of the family. I mean, just any other thing about my family. They didn't even ask anything about the money. Obviously, the ransom was from my father. My father was an important entrepreneur in Mexico. They never asked anything about my father's money. They just asked all such personal questions about my family. I decided not to answer. I decided just to forget about everything. They pressed me a lot. They threatened me that they were going to kill me in that moment if I didn't answer those questions. So I had no options, and I answered the questions. Once I answered the questions, I felt myself as a traitor. I dropped, my self-esteem just dropped to the bottom. I didn't have any reasons to leave. I prayed treason to my family. I said, I'd rather die than come back and find that Gabby or my children's are affected about my answers. So I felt in a very, very deep depression, and I stayed for about 16 days in a very, very bad situation. They took all my clothing away. I was completely naked. I just dropped myself to the floor. I barely eat those 16 days. I didn't even sit in the toilet to my needs. I just, like a little animal, stayed on the floor, losing my weight, losing my life, losing my dreams, forgetting about my family. And I was in a situation that pretty much I was close to die. I think that these people were concerned because they said, I mean, the family, fortunately, the first answer from my family was, okay, we offer you some money, but you have to send us some proof of life. And we want a healthy proof of life. After they saw me in this situation, I think the kidnappers said, this guy, we cannot send a proof of life in such a way. I mean, this is not a proof of life for anybody. And so I think that saved me. I mean, the constant request from my family to send a proof of life probably helped me to survive. So these people showed me, they turned on the light, they opened the little window, and they offered me, and they said, Bosco, today is 15th of September, uh, uh, long life to Mexico City. That, by the way, 15th of September is Independence Day of Mexico. I just went like, what the heck? They said, today you can have a drink. I answered very badly. I was looking at them in a very blurry situation. I couldn't even see them clearly, but I answered, okay, if you give me a glass, in a glass of glass, I accept that you give me a whiskey. Please give me a scotch on the rocks. They asked me, how do you want the scotch? And I said, okay, give me scotch on the rocks, straight to the top in a high, tall glass with one big piece of ice. I close my eyes. I start to dream about having a whiskey in such situations. It was like a pretty funny thing being in that situation and being offered for a whiskey, for a drink. But suddenly, about 3 hours after, they turned on the light, and there was this kidnapper in the window with the glass in his hands. I just, it took me a lot of time to crawl to the other side of the room. In the floor, I couldn't even walk because I had already spent 16 days on the floor. All the legs were pretty much weak and non-useful anymore. So I had to actually crawl on the floor to reach the whiskey. I got the whiskey. I went back to the room. In this photograph, the artist is dressed. I was naked, and I had this glass in my hands. I started to enjoy the beautiful situation of having this whiskey in such conditions. The smell of the room was very bad. My situation was very bad. As I said, I was naked. I started to smell the whiskey very closely just to make like the cult of the whiskey, saying, okay, this is going to last as much as I can. This is the best thing I can ever have right now. It's going to purify my mouth. It's going to give me some different smell. I'm going to enjoy this little dream. I'm going to feel, I'm going to be strength because of the new energy that's going to be coming into my body, whatever. And suddenly I heard my conscience saying, Bosco, offer me the whiskey. And I said, what? Do you want me to offer you the whiskey, Lord? My conscience, I just hear inside my head, offer me the whiskey. And I said, God, I can offer you being kidnapped. And I really learned in my head, Bosco, this doesn't depend on you. Okay, God, I offer you, don't see my family, don't see my children. My conscience answered, that doesn't depend on you. The only thing that depends on you is whether you drink this whiskey or not. That's pretty much what you have, like a personal option right now. So please, if that's up to you, and if you really want to show me that you are still free, offer me the whiskey. That was pretty much playing on my head. So without turning out and looking to an opportunity to at least recuperate some of my self-esteem. But I said, okay, God, I offer you the only thing I have in my hand, and I throw the whiskey and I flush the whiskey to the toilet. I took a piece of paper that was left over my interrogation. They gave me some papers and one pen. I took that piece of paper and I wrote in top of the piece of paper, okay, today is, I recuperate my freedom. I won my first battle, and I put whiskey flush. That's how I named that experience. And at the end, I felt a little useful. I felt a little self-esteem. I felt like I wanted to come back. I wanted to fight back. I wanted to start looking for my life. I said, okay, today I'm going to put a stop to this depression. I'm going to start to fight back. So I said, okay, I yelled the kidnappers and I said, I need a letter from my family. They obviously said no. And I said, okay, why, if you cannot receive a letter from your family, why don't you write a letter to your brother as if your brother was kidnapped? And then you close that letter, and then you open the letter later and apply your thoughts to your brother, apply those thoughts to yourself. So I made like an exercise. I took a piece of paper and I wrote, "Dear brother." And that letter that really was meant for myself, but I was thinking, what would you write to your brother kidnapped, to your kidnapped brother? I actually think that letter really was inspired by the Holy Spirit, because it was a very logical letter, and that's what I needed, no? And I needed to understand what is happening outside. And the letter said, "Dear brother, I just want to tell you that this is not about you. This kidnap is not about you. It's about the family. This is not a personal kidnap. This is a family kidnap. We are all kidnapped. So we are a team. We are fighting together. We are putting together all our job to rescue. Your oldest brother is doing this. Your next brother is doing this. Your father is doing this. My mother was not alive. My mother passed away about 3 years before the kidnap. But my father, as I put in the letter, my father is very concerned, is praying for his son, is fighting real hard to get the rescue, the ransom, and you cannot let us down. So your responsibility as part of the team is fight back, because we don't want you just okay on your return. We need you in perfect situation. So I don't know what you're going to do, but your responsibility is to act as the wishes of your father, as the wishes of Gabby, as the wishes of your children, that you have to be okay, and they want you okay on your way, on your comeback. So I started, I stood over, I just organized myself mentally, and I said, how can I be in perfect conditions? How would you do to be in perfect conditions? So I took a piece of paper, divided by 3 with my pen, and I put in the first column, I put mental health. In the second column, I put physical health. In the third column, I put do something. Take advantage of your time, because the time is the most treasure that we have in our hands. And all these thoughts, I tell them now, 30 years after my kidnap, have been for me a guide to how to overcome the problems, to overcome the situations. Every time I have a concern, like you have it as me right now about the pandemic situation, or our jobs problem, or the angusty that we have in our hearts, have to answer them saying, how can I be in perfect conditions? Not because of me, because of my family, because we don't own to ourselves. We are owned to the people we love. And so once you put yourself in the concerns of the ones that love you, then you have to fight back. Then you have to organize yourself. And so in mental health, I divided mental health in several situations. I just go over some ideas. One of the first situations was get rid of angusty. Angusty, anguish in your heart is the worst thing you can have, because you cannot love with anguish. You cannot help others with anguish internal. You have to free up yourself of anguish. So define for me what's anguish so I can fight it back. And I didn't know the answer because I'm an architect. I'm not a psychologist. But I said, okay, I don't know what is anguish, but I can tell you that the most you accept of the external circumstances, you have more peace in your heart. The most you refuse to the real circumstances you are living, less peace you have in your heart. So let's accept the real situations as given. And like I said, the personal circumstances that you have is the letter of the book that is written on your life. But you can put the music on those letters. And you can put funeral music, or you can put a beautiful music over those letters. So you can put beautiful music on the circumstances that you live. And I decided, okay, let's adapt to the circumstances. The intelligence is about reacting positively to the circumstances. The more you accept the circumstances, the more intelligent you are. And the less intelligent you are is because you don't accept the circumstances that are not your choice in that particular moment. So I said, okay, let's accept the circumstances. The first things I react is why they put me in such a small room. Why is such a small? Let me tell you that in the movie that is shown in this picture, the director of the movie, they had to recreate the room wider than in the real dimensions, because right here in this photograph, the room is about 1.5 wide. But the real room was only 1 meter wide, because the lens of the camera didn't fit 1 meter width. They had to put a model, and 1-to-1 model in 1.5. So imagine this resting half meter in width. It's about 1/3 less width of what you see in this picture. But that was the room that I had. It was all dirty. The toilet was very, very dirty. And I decided first to accept the room as it is. Accept it as it is. That was my reality. I had to accept it. I had to live comfortably in that situation. So I asked for some cleaning materials, and I spent about 1 day working, cleaning up the room until the end. I get rid of every single spot of stain. I clean up the room perfectly, 100%. And at the end of that day, I was much more friend with my own space. No, in that moment, the space was not my enemy, but become my refuge from the outside, from the aggressive of the outside. Instead of being a trap, it became a shelter, because I lived clean. I was naked, but clean by that time. I started to organize myself in the walls. This is a true picture of the room. This is my calendar. I try to organize my thoughts. I start to think about the days from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I start to count the days by the numbers of meals, and one nap, and after 3 meals and one nap, I changed to the next day. Um, but obviously, it was not exact, because how can you organize your time if you are asked to ask for the food as you requested? I mean, they didn't say, okay, you have the right to have 3 meals, and we'll give you the meal. No, they said, okay, you can have 3 meals when you have hungry. So if I had hungry, I just note to the camera, because there was a camera monitoring my daily activity 24 hours a day. I went with my hands requesting attention, and I put a sign that said, please, I need something to eat. This guard opened the little window and asked, because I never heard their voices in those 9 months. I never saw their faces. Everything from me to them was taught, and from them to me was unwritten. So they just wrote in a piece of paper, what do you want? Do you want breakfast? Do you want lunch? Or do you want dinner? So I said, okay, breakfast, okay, lunch, okay, dinner. But I had no I had no control of the time. I didn't know the difference between breakfast and lunch, or the difference between lunch and dinner. And it was a mess in terms of the control of the time. I could not have access to the light, to the sunlight. I did not have a window. I didn't know whether it was day or day or night. So it was a total miss timing on my mind. So suddenly another concern that I had, that there was this tape recorder playing a very, very strong, very high volume music to block the only sense that can go out of the room. The only sense that can go out is your ear. Everything else stays in the room. But if they didn't throw music into the room, probably my hearing, I could probably hear their voices, or hear something that they didn't want me to hear. So they blocked my ear by putting a speaker on the other side of the door with a high volume music. And this music was like a crazy, crazy repetition thing, because it was a tape that used to change side by side by side all the time, 24 hours a day, the same music playing again and again and again and again. This could be a very, very bad enemy on my crazy situation. But suddenly, once the music changed from one side of the cassette to the other side of the cassette, in that 3 seconds that I had of silence, that I enjoyed those 3 little seconds, and the music started again, I said, okay, this is a very important timing. So I'm going to assign 30 minutes to each side of the cassette. I have to live 24 hours. That means that I have to be 16 hours awake and 8 hours of rest, of sleep. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rest. I'm going to decide when to start after I'm totally rest. And then I'm going to count 32 cassettes. That means 32 half hours that are 16 hours. So I wrote with this marker into the wall, I put 32 circles, and I distribute in the circles my activities. The important thing was not to have 1 minute of not doing anything. I had to be 100% occupied, because one of the things I was very, very concerned is to get crazy in that situation. And those situations, you cannot leave your imagination loose. You have to control your imagination. You have to keep yourself in constant activity, because otherwise bad thoughts could probably make attrition to you, and you want to be focused on fighting the 16 hours without even resting. And you have to also gain to be enough tired so I could sleep the rest of those 8 hours. I'm not gonna count the cassettes during those 8 hours. I'm just gonna be very, very tired after these 32 cassettes. Then I'm gonna go to sleep, and I hope my biological clock can start putting me into the calendar. That way, I started my routine. I distribute my things, and I said, okay, first cassette, I'm going to ask for breakfast. Second cassette, I'm going to pray 30 hours every day. Then the next cassette, I ask for a book. I have the right of asking a book. They asked me what kind of a book do you want? I asked for a Bible, a Catholic Bible. They gave me a Catholic Bible. That was my treasure. And then the third cassette, I used to read the Old Testament. After that, I used to spend 30 minutes writing my thoughts, writing my concerns, writing everything. They give me a block of white sheets and a piece of and a pen. I used to write a lot just to put my thoughts into the paper and not have one just minute of not doing at all, because I was very, very afraid of become crazy in those situations. This is a photograph, a real photograph from the inside of the room. As you can see, there is a camera that is watching me 24 hours a day. I learned that camera could be an aggression, because if you are naked and you have a camera looking at you all the time, suddenly becomes an aggression. I could not cover that camera. I have to leave it unblocked, and I was totally watched 24 hours a day. So I decided to change the sense of that feeling of being watched all the time. And I said, okay, this is like God looking into me. Let's play that this is what God is seeing all the time. We are seen by God. We not cover ourselves to God. So I'm going to think that camera is the presence of God in our lives. I'm going to think that I have to act proudly as a son of God, and I want him to feel proud of me. So I'm going to fight back. I have to pray. I have to think about my family, think about all them all the time. Know that watch is not the kidnapper's watch, but it's God's watch over me as a father taking care of my life. One of the most important things about this kidnap is one related to mental health. That is that you have to compromise yourself to your faith, whatever faith you have. So I needed to reset my faith. I needed okay, I have 33 years old by that time. I have a faith that was pretty much, I learned this faith from my family. I learned this Catholic faith from my mother. But I never really make a choice of my faith. And I realized that I had to react into that and to really decide on my own freedom whether I wanted to believe those thoughts or not, that faith or not. So, okay, I said to myself, okay, why don't you free up your mind? Why don't you play the role that you don't believe in God for 3 days? Let's reset your faith. Let's start from the beginning. And one by one thought, this time you're going to make the choice. You're going to decide what you want to believe. And once that you make yours those thoughts, then for the rest of your life, you have to compromise yourself to that 100%. So when I said, okay, do you believe in God? I answered, yes, obviously I believe in God. So I said, no, don't answer me just like that. Give me reasons. Why do you believe in God? And I said, okay, I believe in God because I'm an architect. I know that to design a building, you have to spend a lot of time behind a design. I really don't understand how an architectural piece can be done without an architect. I do not understand how a book can be made without a writer. I really don't believe that this beautiful universe but was created as a result of a big explosion. I don't believe that. I mean, personally, that's my freedom. That's my personal choice. I'm not telling you to believe what I believe. I'm just telling you that every one of us have to make the compromise and make a free decision. Well, I decided to believe in God because it was logical to me. And I said, okay, if you believe in God, this has a consequence. And the consequence is that you do not believe in a handicapped God, in a limited God. You believe in an omnipotent God. You believe in an omnipotent God, and He's your Father, and He's omnipotent. He can do everything for His sons, and you are His son. Then have faith, and I wrote in my wall, faith. Be faithful to your faith. God knows more than you. That's a fact, and you have to rely on Him because He has a true vision of the present and the future. My visibility was only 1/3. His visibility, he was probably seeing this conference from Mexico to Manila 30 years after. I did not see this at that time, and I decided to put myself in God's hands and give Him the choice of controlling my life and seeing the choice of He being the driver and sit on the driver's seat because I could not drive with my limited vision. So that's the way I started to come. I started to do exercise. The next column that was physical health, I decided to divide it in two. Was by really doing exercise every day. Remember that I was a marathoner. I started to do exercise every day. I used to run 80 minutes. That means three sides of the cassettes, an hour and a half of exercise. That was like jumping in the same place. I mean, just a statical jog to do exercise. I was naked. I sweat a lot. I have a bucket of water that I use 1/3 to flush the toilet every day, 1/3 to drink it, and I have some personal irritation, and 1/3 to pour it on my body just after the exercise. After that, I believe I start to recover my strength. I start to become one day after the other a little better, and so on. The other thing was, okay, control your alimentation, control your daily, what you eat every day. So I decided to negotiate with the kidnappers my meals. And I said, you are giving me meals that probably are going to make me sick. I need something healthy. I am a personal runner, and I know exactly what I need. So I asked them for very, very basic things. I didn't want to be drugged. I didn't want to be hurt on my stomach. And I asked for cereal, fruit, basic things as tea 3 times a day, fruit 3 times a day, in the morning some cereal, in the lunch some protein, meat just boiled in water with no ice, because as I said, I didn't want to be drugged. I didn't want to condimentate the food in such a way that I could not distinguish some drugs within the meals. And at night, I only have a yogurt, my fruit, and 1 tea, and that's all. I had to be limited on my alimentation because my exercise was limited. I wanted to be in perfect shape, in physically perfect shape, and I really started to become very, very strong every day. Suddenly in October, I had this, I had, as I said, when they send the proofs of life, they used to offer me an international magazine. They gave me newsletter. The newsletter is a publication that comes every week. It's a weekly publication. And that's I asked for a newsletter, and so they gave me the newsletter, the news, this magazine newsletter. And suddenly I was reading the newsletter, and I opened the newsletter, and I saw this ad right here. This ad, let me just pass it to the other room. I don't know how to do it. Ahí está. This letter, actually, it just jumped into my sight. What was happening? What is this ad? He said, richness of internal space. And richness of internal space is the title of an architectural conference that I dictated that same year in 1990 to the Pacific Design Center of Los Angeles about my architecture. This graphic right there is like a synthetic draw of a building I just did that I was awarded. So I said, wow, this is my conference in the newsletter publication internationally. Wow, was a wonderful publication. Then I saw this that said, you are our most important project. And I said, what is that? At the end of this ad, it said the Glorieta Group, San Diego, California. Well, it happened that my father, when he asked you to go to his home, instead of saying, come to my office, he used to say, come to Glorieta, because he lived in front of a Glorieta. And I said, this is my father saying of his office, the Glorieta Group. San Diego, California, my father had an apartment in San Diego, California. So I realized this was a communication from my family to me, a secret communication that the kidnappers did not advise. In the middle of the text, it said, involving, the last sentence, it said, one second please, the involving the constant quest for excellence in the resolutions of every detail, taking into account the special constrained circumstances of your project and slim communication, we guarantee all our effort towards a successful outcome. And it said Glorieta Group. Imagine what that represents to me. I was shocked about receiving this communication. I immediately dropped the magazine into the floor. I didn't want them to see the relation between the magazine and my crying. And I said, this is gold for me. I have to take care of this link, this way of communicating from my family. Now I have to answer my family that I received this communication and that I receive it. And imagine what they have accomplished. They made contact with a man being kidnapped. This was fantastic. And this was an idea of the consultants that my family had, that they said to my family, we know that he's receiving Newsweek because all the proofs of lives are being a photograph taken with a Polaroid to Bosco. And in these photographs, I was holding in my hands some Newsweek. So they said, okay, send the message to Bosco. So I received the message, as I said before, and they took me a photograph, and behind the Polaroid picture, I wrote with some letters. I said to them, can I write some letters in the picture, just to make sure they know that I'm okay mentally, not only physically but also mentally? And they say, with their heads, they say, okay. So I put under that photograph, I put, family, I just want to tell you all that you are you are my most important project. The same word that they put, and I said, I am in the richness of my internal space. I am searching for the richness of my internal space. At the end of that sentence, I said, please tell me about Gabby. No. Well, I just can tell you that this was an impressive situation. I receive from now on about one message every week on the Newsweek. I receive 29 messages from my family to me. That was probably 50% of the strength and the power to fight back and to feel myself connected to my family. Imagine all the difference of doing that. Obviously, in Christmas, when Christmas came to me, well, family, Gabby was alone. This is a real photograph of Gabby, the 24th of December 1990. This is Christmas Eve. Gabby, by the way, didn't tell my children that I was kidnapped. The oldest one was only 8 years old. The youngest were the pair of twins, about 9 months old. So they were not in an age in which you want to complicate their lives with such a notice, with such an impression. Your father is being kidnapped. So Gabby told my family, no, both, your father is doing a job, a very important hotel. He's an architect. He's doing a very important hotel in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and his clients didn't want him to come back until he finished the work. And that was the same of Gabby every single day. Obviously, they didn't went to school. Gabby just played with them a very natural vacation at home. And my oldest kid would ask Gabby, hey, don't you talk to my father, even by phone? Remember, at that time, we had no cell phones. At that time, there were no cell phones. That was a good thing. I mean, the only phone was my home's phone. And Gabby said, yes, I talk to your father every night, but you are sleeping. Okay, can I talk to my father tonight? Can you wake me up when he calls? Next day, the first thing my kid asked Gabby, did he call you? And Gabby would answer, yes, he called me. Why didn't you wake me up? I tried to wake you up, but you couldn't answer. You didn't answer. You were you were in a very heavy sleep. And so that way, Gabby made them live like life is beautiful, like the movie Life is Beautiful. And then when I came back, they finally found what happened. And during their lives, they have understand that we really suffer, and for them it's like a testimony that is a treasure on the family that has helped us to probably deal with so many problems that life has. That same Christmas, while Gabby was spending this Christmas with my kids, I realized, being kidnapped, I realized that I had to do something with the kidnappers, because I remember a dream that I had, and in this dream that I had, I was in hell. And in this dream, there was this guy yelling against me in hell, saying, hey, Bosco, you are a stupid guy. And I say, why do you tell me you are stupid? I mean, what the heck? We both are in hell. And he said to me, no, you are in hell. I am in hell, he said, because I was a very bad person. But you are in hell because you are totally selfish, because you didn't think of anybody else. You are fighting only to your personal health, to your personal perfection, but you are not thinking of others. And let me tell you, that's our thing. I remember that dream I had it before my kidnap. Obviously, I had it when I was about 15 years old. By that time, when I talked to my mother about this dream, I remember that my mother, and I recall this dream while I was kidnapped. My mother at that time, she told me, hey, that was a wonderful dream. I mean, this time, now you understand what is a true Christian, what is a true Catholic. And I said, what is that, mother? And she said, well, a good Christian is like a coin. Any coin has two heads. One head is personal perfection, is personal sanctity, and the other side of the coin is apostolate. There are no selfish saints. So think about it. There's a lot of things you have to help others. You will gain heaven by helping others. You won't get, if you are selfish. If you only play to yourself, forget about conquering heaven for yourself. Well, after this dream, when I was kidnapped, I recall this kidnap, and I said, I mean, imagine dying in these circumstances and being in hell, and imagine Tecate, this was this kidnapper. This kidnapper had put an ally not named Tecate. I say, imagine this guy yelling at me, saying, hey, you're a stupid guy. We are in hell. I am in hell because I was kidnapper, but you are in hell because you didn't help me. Because you didn't talk me about God. Because you forgot that we are sons of God such as yourself. Once I thought about that, then I said, no, I don't have a choice. I really have to tell them the side of the story of my head. Whether they choose or not to believe, that's on their own. But up to me. I'm going to do my best. So I sent a little letter, a little note to the kidnappers, and I said, today's Christmas. Today there are no kidnappers or kidnapped. We are both sons of God, and today we are going to pray together. I sent that note, and in some time after that, they opened the little door, and there were these 5 people in the other side of the little window just waiting for me to pray. They said, we are ready. I read the Bible for about 5 minutes. They stood there without any movement. I thought that was going to be all. But after that, I gave them like a little talk about what my personal faith was, how we live Christmas in my family, etc. They stayed there without moving. And at the end, I said, okay, let's pray together. 1 Our Father and 10 Hail Marys for you and for our families. So hopefully we can meet all in heaven someday after our lives. After that prayer, one by one came and shook my hand with the tears on their eyes. After this, can you imagine the happiness that was inside of me? I felt like it was the best Christmas of my life. I felt myself useful. I felt myself proud. I felt myself full of richness. I was naked. I did not have anything material on my hand. And I was working naked for my Lord. And I think it was my most important Christmas I ever did. After this, they gave me some clothing. They dressed me out as after this talk, my personal situation became a little better. They gave me this t-shirt. They gave me this chain over my neck. That was my original chain given to me by once my mother passed away. This chain was from my mother, and I really love this material thing that was this chain. After the Christmas, they gave me the chain they said, okay, we're going to leave you this chain right now, and you gave the chain back to us once we free you up. Okay, I said, give it to me. But at least I have a recall from my mother. I have this t-shirt. This is a Newsweek magazine. They used, my parents start negotiating the amount of money to pay, and they request from the kidnappers these proofs of lives every other week. So they, part of the kidnappers were not in Mexico. They actually, some of my family were negotiating my ransom. They started in Madrid for about 1 month. This was international guerrillas. Then they said this part of my family, the ones in charge of the negotiation, they were moved to Santiago de Chile. They spent another 2 months there, and then they spent about 6 months in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So my father said, okay, we're going to start doing offerings to you as much as we can, but you provide us every 2 weeks with a personal proof of life, because otherwise we're not going to continue offering as much as we can. So these photographs were taken about every 2 weeks. Obviously, there was an opportunity to answer by clue behind these pictures with this very, very small letter to answer just clue words just to confirm the reception of their ad that was included in these Newsweek pages. So we had communication for my family and myself. It was a miracle communication. They never advised that. It was like a personal secret. Sometimes people tell me, okay, the most important sacrifice that you did inside was to offer the whiskey. And I said, no, there was an important step, but there was another step. I mean, probably as much important as the whiskey. That was when I received Newsweek magazine. I used to throw it in the floor and say, okay, 2 days before you can open the magazine. But that way, I protect my communication tool. I protect my media, not linking my emotions to the magazine. I didn't want to stop that communication. Other thing that I get after that exercise is to strengthen my will by means of controlling myself those 2 days without opening the magazine. And the third thing, I said, in those 2 days, nothing's going to change about what is right there in the ad.
Sir, you got muted
See, am I muted?
for a minute or two.
1 minute. Am I muted?
Now it's okay. Now it's good.
That's good. Do you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes. Except for 1 minute that we lost you.
I'm sorry. Can I? Should we? Should we pick up? Let me 1 minute. Let me change the signal of my network. Just tell me when you are okay. Can you see the presentation, or do you want me to share?
We can see it. We can see it well.
Okay. Are you seeing the proofs of life, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then I start working about the other situation of remember that I was an architect. So I was very handy with my hands. So I decided, what if they left me behind? What if sometime they just don't feed me up? Why if they just leave me out, leave that home and left me behind? Then I die because there's nobody to feed me, nobody to put food. It's like you're an animal in a little cage that you're being fed every day and you depend your life on somebody else. You don't want to be like that. So I decided to try, at least on my side, to open the door from the inside. I said, okay, if they leave me behind, if they are, I mean, that was part of my concern. What if they leave me behind? Are you going to die? How are you going to get out of that room with your own means? So I decided to build an instrument to be able to open the door from the inside. That was the only reason I did that, because I wanted, and I started to cover that extreme situation of being held, of being left behind. So I started to build a little plastic thing out of a medicine container. I asked for some razor to razor my beard. I got the little knives from that handy, razor. I cut the behind of a part of the container of the medicine, and I had finally like a little plastic thing to at least try to open from the inside. I learned the mechanism of the window because every time they open the window to feed me or they open the window to communicate something to me, then I knew that that there was this. It had not a very complicated mechanism. It was only like a little wood thing that trapped the door. If I could turn that block thing, probably I could open up the window. So I did this plastic thing. The mechanical thing of that is how it looked in this picture. This is like a photograph of the movie just as I opened the window from the inside, as I tried to open the window from the inside. So what happens is that the 1st of May, I was still kidnapped, and suddenly I was fighting back and whatever, and suddenly they put me in front of the camera, and they start to film taking some photographs of me. They asked me to read a letter on the video camera, and I read the final instructions. I learned, and this was the 1st of May, I learned that they were already negotiate. They shot negotiations with my family. They had came to an agreement of the amount of money to be paid. They were in Argentina, and they asked me to give them some instructions about how to drop the money. Part of the instructions were that they have to fly from or to drive from Argentina to Brazil, to Sao Paulo, Brazil, with the money on their hands. They had to check in a hotel in Sao Paulo, and they had to publish an ad of selling a plane, and the register of the plane had to be the room they were checked in Brazil. So this had to be at the most the 11th of May. So they gave my family like 10 days to move from Argentina to Brazil with the money. And they had to, once they checked in the hotel the 11th of May, they had to publish the ad to make them learn about the room, and they would be sending to my brothers the final instructions to drop the money in Brazil. But my father and my brothers could not fly to Brazil because you cannot cross the border with a lot of money in your bags. And that money was a result of a credit taken by my father to be able to reach the amount of money that they had to pay. And they didn't want to cross the border without the permission of the Brazilian government. So they tried to get the permit from the Brazilian government. The Brazilian government said no, there was no permit. And instead of publishing a confirmation of the room, they published a cancellation of the drop because they said, we cannot fly to Brazil. We have to pay you here in Argentina. So please reconsider your option and please collect the money in Argentina because we cannot move to Brazil. They told me 11th of May of that. They were very angry. That was pretty much my hope. They were erasing the hope that I had in my mind to come back finally. I was very, very sad. I dropped into the floor again, and I said, okay, please let me send a letter to the kidnappers just to please ask them, beg them to accept my family's situation. They said, okay, tomorrow, Tecate said, tomorrow I will put a fax to I will put a fax to the chief to let him know to reconsider. So he left me there. The next day, I suddenly opened my eyes and I heard him like walking out from the second room. By that time, the music was pretty much low down in volume. My ear learned pretty much the external sounds, and when you are totally in darkness and the outside turns on, then suddenly you see the light around the door. By that time, I said, okay, this is a good time. I'm alone. This is a good time to open from the inside, to try to open the window. Because there was nobody in the other side. I heard the sound of the guard walking out, but I didn't hear anybody coming in. The music was turned down. The video was turned down. I was in total darkness, and I learned that I was alone. I knocked on the door. Nobody answered, and I think this is a good situation to try at least to open the door from the inside, just to check if I am able to open from the inside. I was not planning to escape. I was just planning to try if the instrument that I had made worked. And so I said, okay, I start to hear a shower, and I said, okay, this guard that is taking a shower is the one coming back to take the turn of the guard. It was the change of guard. The change of guard was in the shower. So I said, okay, at least, I have him controlled by the sound of the shower, so I'm going to try to open the door. So I passed this little plastic outside the door, the little piece of wood. I made a turn by the use of this plastic thing. I pushed the window and I finally opened the door. When I opened the door, I saw that. This is a true picture of what I saw. Although the thing is, it was not lighted, but it was very dark. But at the end of that little door was some light behind. This is a very small passage at the end of the second room to the right. I had never seen this image because all the thing I saw every time they had opened up the window, I just saw the guards, and behind them I used to see like a black curtain like this one. I just used to see this window with the guards and a black curtain behind. When I opened the window, this curtain was uncovered, and I saw this. And at the end of that room, that's a pretty long room, about 6 meters long. This is a closer photograph, and I saw this little passage with some light. And I said, okay, that's enough information. Let's close the window from back again. Let's go back to your room and try to close the door. But I took the plastic away. I tried to shut the window from the inside, but this piece of wood didn't turn by itself. It had to be moved by hand. Didn't turn automatically. Once you turn it over, it was impossible to shut the door from the inside. And I felt myself in a very, very dangerous situation, because I said, if the guard after the shower comes back and notice that that thing is open, I am dead man, because they said, if you open the window, we collect the money and then we'll kill you, because we don't know how much you saw. So I felt myself trapped. So I said, okay, let's go after the window. 1, 2, 3. I opened the window again. I put myself the chain in my neck, and I said, okay, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, please, Lord, take care of me. I'm a dead man, and I at least have to try to go. I don't know what I'm gonna find after this window, but I'm on your side. So I walked through this little passage, and when I came into the third room, this is this closet in which this is a real photograph of the closet, and in the lower shelf, you see like this passage. So I came crawling through that little hole, and when I stood up on the third room and I opened up my at the end of the room, I saw a window, and this window it was this wall with those wonderful flowers. It was the first time I saw the light in 9 months, and I said, "Wow, this is freedom." And where do you want to go? You want to go to that wall, or you want to go back to your little hole? And I said, no, no, I rather the flowers. But when I stood up on that third room, then I saw a guard sleeping just about 1 meter away from where I was. I am sure that if this guy heard something, I am sure, this is from the movie again, I'm sure that if he heard something, I was sure that he thought it was another guard. The last thing you believe is a kidnap that is escaping. There were 5 guards in the house, and I'm sure that if he heard something, he was in this position. He had this like his arm covering the eyes, like this is like a little pretty much awakened position. It was 8:30 in the morning of Sunday, 12th of May, 1990. It was already in the morning. He was sleeping to the end because they used to open up my window and give me breakfast at 10 a.m. They used to turn off the lights at 2 a.m. and 2 a.m. and they used to turn on the lights at 10 a.m. So it was 8:30 in the morning, just about an hour and a half before they used to turn on my lights. So I think if they heard something, I'm sure they thought about other kidnapper and not myself. I went directly to the window. I just found that the window was open. I jumped through the window. My hair was long. My beard was only about 15 days grown. I was dressed like that. I went through that little window, I mean, in a very, very cautious situation. I mean, I didn't want to wake this guy up, but I was like controlled by, I don't know, I felt like was like my angel going with me and walking me out of that. I mean, this is a miracle situation. That is the truth. That's what was happening. Many people don't believe it, but this is a fact. And after 20 and 30 years now, I still thank God of letting this happen. When I jumped to the other window, this is what I saw. This is a real photograph of that house. I saw this long passage. At the end, it was his door. I crawled to the end, about 20 meters. I opened up the door from the inside, and this is what I saw. I was in about 2 hours away from my home. This city was Puebla, about 150 kilometers east Mexico City. I didn't know that time I was Puebla. I just saw this, and I started running just to cover up myself from the exterior. I continued running until this house. I saw a lady like open up the window because she was going out to have a morning jog. Just before she closed the door, I just like surprised this poor lady and pushed her inside her own house to cover up myself. I was thrown out because she started to yell. I was very, very afraid. I wanted just to hide out. I wanted just to disappear because I understand anybody outside could be that kidnapper, and I didn't want to be trapped again and bring me back to the place I escaped. Well, after a couple of hours, because they throw me out of that house, then I grab a taxi. I invent to the taxi driver that I was ill, that I needed to, where are we? He said, are you disoriented? Yes, I'm disoriented. I had a heart attack. I need help. And he said, we are in Puebla. And he said, okay, take me to Mexico City. And how can you pay me? I can give you this medal. I had this gold medal in my neck. I gave this medal to the taxi driver, and he believed on me. This taxi driver, I was in this taxi driving back to my home, having this explosion, this big notice inside my head. At this time, this was pretty much like 9 o'clock. I said, nobody knows what is happening inside me. God, only God and myself. My family doesn't know I escaped. The kidnappers haven't opened the window and learned that I'm not there. So this is only a secret between God and myself. After 2 hours and a half, I reached home. I came back to my family. Obviously, this was a crazy day of my life, probably the craziest day of my life. I walked into my father's house. He just started crying very loud. He didn't believe I was there. Gabby came following that. My brothers started coming, or we were crying, and there was an impressive situation. After that, I remember that day, nobody could sleep. I mean, there were too much adrenaline going through our heads. I just walked into my closet. Everybody was sleeping on my bed, all my 7 children and Gabby, all in the sofas, and I was left alone. I didn't want to go sleep because I said, what if I'm dreaming? This is all a dream? And I wake up and I'm still kidnapped. I have to write something. I have to understand what's happening. And I took a piece of letter, and that's how I will end this talk, to let you know what do I wrote that same night. This time, 4 a.m. in the morning, next day. This is 13th of May, 1990. And I wrote something like this. I said, everything started 9 months ago. Everything seems now like a dream, a profound whisper, full of wealth of experience, a change of vision in the way I value my life, with a firm proposal which inspired me to be better. I am more convinced than ever that there are not coincidences. Everything is God's will, and everything that happens physically or spiritually happens for a reason. Our life is the addition of these facts for a justifiable reason, and in view of our Lord God, His will is done, always looking out for us like a good father, the hallowed Father, for the good of His sons. During all this time, my fight consisted of eliminating any obstacle that could distance me from God, in order to know more clearly His will, seemingly absurd in the events that they unfolded, but that today, after the storm, I see clearly that God knows better. We are very limited in our understanding of what happens and why things happen. We should be objective and know that we are limited, and that it wasn't always happen for our understand. There are many times when He asked us not to judge in order to eliminate obstacles of egoism, to make us humble, so that He reigns in ourselves. And I said, I ask that this help us to be better, and never forget that the only purpose of our life is to return to God, a return that we subsist on every day of our life by the way of substituting our will for His, by the measure of loving more, by sacrificing more, being freer, by breaking the holds that bind us. But this way of life demands a fight. It demands a strength. We can't yield to the materialism that surrounds us. After all, we are Christians. Our model is Jesus, that died for us. In this life, the rough road that our Lord is, this is what He promised us. And I said, He won't never stop answering with facts and always, as in this case, with concrete solutions. So pray to God with faith. I repeat, you are safe in His hands. In this time that we realize the truth, but not only this depends on our happiness here, but also in our eternal life. I am asking God to bless all of us so we realize His will in us, and so we can respond decisively to His call. And I lose myself in the clock of Virgin of Guadalupe, our patron and saint of mother, asking her to put us on the right path to heaven, where we will know God, source of all happiness. Thank you very much.
Wow, sir, that is so fantastic, I don't know what to say. I'm so speechless with what you have shared with us. And you and your story, it's such a blessing to us. As you can see in the chat box, many people are very thankful, no? They're very much enlightened. And at this point, I would like everyone to turn on your videos and press your space bar, and let's say thank you, Mr. Bosco, for being a blessing to us. So let's do that.
Mhm.
Turn on your videos, press your space bar to unmute yourselves, and together, let's say, thank you. Can we say that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mr.
Mr.
Thank
Bosco.
you, Mr. Bosco.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Bosco.
thank you, Mr. Bosco.
Thank you, Mr. Bosco.
Thank you, Mr. Bosco.
Gracias, gracias.
Gracias. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to
Thank you so much.
protecting you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Especially
Sir, we
during
have a
normal in times of difficult crisis, you instill hope and optimism. Thank you very much.
thank you. Sir, we have a question and answer if you don't mind
Please.
portion. Yeah, we have gathered some questions, and we will show them on screen. And yeah, the theme of this question and answer is "Light in the Darkness," the title of the movie about your kidnapping. First question: what is your advice for us to handle the challenges these days with the same unbreakable spirit that you had when you were kidnapped?
Think about the most important things in your life. Sometimes it's important to write them down. What is your treasure of your life? Answer you that question. Probably will go to the same conclusions as I did. And this is a good time to remember what is the treasure of your life. And you will answer probably the same of me, saying that your treasure is your people. Your treasure is your loved ones. And then it's a good idea to list your loved ones. Once you list your loved ones and know that they live from your love and you live from their love, you will find yourself loved. You will find yourself like you are part of a group of people that love you. That is a reason. That is an important reason to be in better shape every day. Not to be selfish. To think of how many people think about you every day. And that way you get a lot of strength of getting from a
Yes.
concern
So,
to a happiness situation. And the second thing, I believe that one other thing that is your treasure is your faith. Keep your faith up. Keep up your spirit. Believe in God truly. I mean, if you decide that. I mean, define yourself, follow your faith, and follow it to the end. In my case, I believe in God, I'm in his hands. He knows more than I can see. He knows more what after this pandemic situation will end. He he led this pandemic for something. He knows more. I'm his children, and I'm in his hands. So those two things: think of the ones that love you, act as they expect on your side, as you expect on others. And the second thing, take care, maintain up the spirit on your faith.
Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, so think of others and keep the faith. Next, how can we help those who seem to be losing hope because of the pandemic's negative impact, isolation, unemployment, uncertainties, hunger, etc., which you had experienced when you were in that situation of being kidnapped? Of course, the lockdown that we have now is nothing compared to what you had gone through, but of course, the people would like to like ask for your help so that they don't lose hope, aside from the ones you mentioned earlier.
Well, I think that we have a very good instruments around us. We have phones, we have telephone, and we have internet. So try to call at least 3 people a day, people that you have in your heart, people that you know they probably are passing through a very bad solution. So a good thing is to be close to your friends. A good thing is that you make a list of people you know, and at least do 3 calls a day. 3 calls a day in which you have to bring them hope, you have to bring them some happiness, probably, I don't know, tell them some joke, tell them some good things, tell them of some positive attitude. I mean, it's important not to let our friends alone. We know people that are suffering. We could probably give them some positive solution, but get out of your personal problem and dedicate some time of your day talking to others. On the other side of somebody that you cannot reach to help, because probably there's a lot of people with employment, there's a lot of people insulated that you don't even know. Well, pray every day for them. I used to feel the strength of the prayers from the outside. I truly believe on the communion of saints. I really believe that if you think positive and if you pray for somebody, for the people that are hungered, for the people that are unemployed, for the people that are isolated, I think there are good vibrations coming to those people. So one of the things, call the ones are in reach of your phone and pray for the other ones that aren't. And that way, I feel you put a positive situation on this unknown situation we're living.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, no. Our happiness, our positivity at this time really needs to have an outward orientation, and happiness is really that. It always should have an outside orientation for it to be authentic, right, sir?
Right.
And the next question is, what advice can you give us to come out of this pandemic with a healthy body, mind, and spirit, just as you did when you were able to come out of that kidnapping situation?
I think you have to take care of your time. Every day we are experiencing a new day, a brand new day. You have some 16 hours in front of you that you have to fill up every single hour. Try to put yourself in a schedule. Try to accomplish that schedule. I mean, try to do something for your mind. That means reading some spiritual things that could be important for yourself. Do some prayer every day. I mean, help your mental situation, mental health. Remember that the intelligence the, the definition of intelligence is as much as you accept and you adapt to the circumstances. That's the way intelligent people are. They adapt very fast to the circumstances. The less you're intelligent you are, you need more time to adapt to circumstances. Because you want to be intelligent, you have to hurry about adapting yourself to circumstances. You want to adapt, not to react. And the other thing is that fill your day with activities. Fill your day with positive activities. Don't let yourself down in front of the TV or in front of a sofa without doing anything. Do something. Put yourself some schedule. Put yourself some exercise on your body because it's part of your health. And put yourself something on your spirit. Reading, praying, doing exercise, occupying some of your time to others and whatever. So make sure that there's not one single day with some important thing to do, at least. And write down in a book, because you don't want then to remember this past 2 or 3 or 4 months without containing any insight. You have to get, you have to learn how to really to appreciate every day that we have in our lives.
Yes. So I'm sure after hearing Mr. Bosco, we'd be able to appreciate more the things that we have, the sunlight, our friends, our family,
Right.
food on the table, etc. At this point, I'd like to invite the audience, if you have, if you want to ask questions, you may feel free, just raise your hand. Okay. I see that Efren Elane has a question in the chat box. Yeah, you want to share it with us?
Yes. I don't see myself. Anyway, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
What you did to the kidnappers was very impressive when you prayed with them
We decided
during Christmas Day.
I don't know the reaction. I felt that I gained a lot of authority to them. I think my first 4 months before the praying were much harder than the other 5 months. After the pray, they dressed me. They gave me clothing. They gave me my chain. They changed the music to better music.
Yes.
And I started to have a little more livable kidnap, even though it was another 5 months. But I felt myself proud of me, and I had some talks to some of the kidnappers about. The 6th of January, they saw through the camera another kidnapped guy. I was very happy. I was jumping. I was truly satisfied with what I did praying with them. And there was this paper that came into me saying, Mr. Bosco, please tell us the source of your strength. Then I asked them to come to the window, and then he opened the window and said, like asking, where is the source of your strength? And I said, because I don't have fear. I conquer the fear because I understand that I'm not gonna die either 1 minute after or 1 minute before of God's will. This does not depend on you. This depends on God. Now, if you kill me and God permits you to kill me only on respect of your freedom, God, out of that bad action, produces a better result, taking me to heaven. So I'm ready as soon as you want. I'm ready to die.
Wow.
So once you tell a kidnapper that you're not afraid, once they understand that there's you are like free of, of fear, you become very important. You become very strong. And I felt that way. So I was ready to die. I felt myself loved by my God. I felt myself protected by my God. And when I came back, I used to tell Gabby, hey, Gabby, have you ever understand the strength of a person that truly leave his hands in God's will, knowing that your Father is omnipotent and He's a lovely Father? I mean, this is like a raincoat. This is like putting yourself a raincoat over any problem in your life. So what is the conclusion 30 years after that? They have to pray more. Because I used to pray a lot. I used to pray a lot inside my kidnap. And right now, I don't pray enough. And because I don't pray enough, I am in the surface of the waters. I am in that inconsistency of having problems, and I'm up and down, up and down, and up and down. And by that time, I was deeply anchored to the bottom. You have to anchor yourself to the bottom. You have to go deep in your side. So the mental pray, either any religion that you have, either you're a Muslim or you're a Jew or you're a Catholic, whatever you choose. But if you don't pray every day, you lose anchor to the truth. You lose control of your life. If you want to become stable, you want to become happy, whether there's a crisis, whether there's a pandemic, whatever, you have to anchor yourself deep into your faith. So that's what I learned. That's because I'm back in the surface again sometimes, because I'm concerned about my job, because I don't get enough contracts. I'm concerned about my family. Then I learned I have to go back to pray, because that's the true source of my strength when I was kidnapped. I want to go back to that source, and that source is pray and to lose yourself into the lovely love's hands of God. I truly think that the most problems in the actual human being is that we are away from pray, and we have to go back to and pray again.
During your, I realized from your story that you and your kidnappers were actually both victims of the circumstances. I wonder what happened to the kidnappers afterwards. Did they repent? Did they convert?
No,
did
they
turn
haven't.
around?
They have.
Did you have any news about them?
We lose them. We lose their track. We know the people that they gave us their advice from England, Control Risk. They said that the group of people that kidnapped me were about 40 people. We knew the ID of 5 people. And they said to my father, if you go after those 5 people, you have 35 that they know everything about you, and you're going to live in hell for the rest of your life. So the best thing to do is to go to the news, show to the world that you know who they are, and tag and get an agreement of peace. And so my father went to the news and said, I have the IDs of 5 of the kidnappers. I just I offer you a white flag. I won't go against you, and you leave us alone for the rest of our lives. So my father shut up the persecution. He did not promote the investigation. Other of what the police did, but the police didn't found records of these people. My father did not promote any fight back, and actually we have never heard of them after that. And I have never found them. I have never heard of them. I don't know if they're dead or not. I just still pray for them and wish the best for their lives. Hopefully they return to good, and hopefully my words I mean, went deep into their minds, and I hope to find them at heaven if I have the privilege of conquer heaven. That's my thought.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other question? I see that Hilda Naive from Cebu has a question. Hilda, you want to share your question?
Thank you, Architect Bosco. Just wanted to also know more about your family. Maybe we can, yeah, we wanted to see how they managed after your captivity, and how they learned to adapt to also possible fear, especially among your children who were then very small.
They were very small, and obviously there was a parallel, parallelism between myself and my wife. She's a wonderful woman, and I think we were like twin souls going up and down. And when I came back, I found the same attitude in my wife, and I found that she had the same faith of me. So we decided just to continue living. We didn't want to run from the reality. We didn't even change our home address. We did not move from our original home. We did not change the telephone numbers, because we said if we start running now, we will spend all our lives running. So the first years were a very little difficult in terms of being afraid of something, but eventually within the years we started to live normal lives. My children have lived that sense of protection with their parents, and they truly have lived with me the testimony of faith from their mother and from their father. And after 25 years, I can tell you that 5 years ago I celebrated my 25th anniversary of my coming back, and my children put together a song to thank me about the example, to thank me about that personal treasure that for them is the experience of this kidnap. It's incredible how a very bad situations have turned to them into a important part of their treasure. I mean, they really feel proud of their mother. They feel proud of me, and they have always hear from positive conclusions after the kidnap. They don't learn the kidnap as a trauma thing. They learn the kidnap as an opportunity for his father to grow up, an opportunity as a reference of how to recover your faith on the problems that you have in life. And that's the way we educated our kids. And I think they have some greater tools, because I mean, they will have some problems in their lives. I mean, we all have problems in our lives, and these situations teach us a lot of how to act against these problems. I mean, like the pandemic or whatsoever, we all be experiencing any health problems. We all will experience some death of people that we love, and I think these experiences will get you back to your roots of faith. And I don't know, for the family, it's a good history to recall.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from somebody from Taipei. That's Taiwan. May I ask John Yu to share your question? John Yu.
Yes, my name is Jan Yu. I'm actually Janet. I teach at the university here in Taiwan, and a student of mine would like to know how, if one doesn't have crisis, is faith still relevant?
Well, let me tell you something. I mean, there's only 100% true statistic, and is that 100% of the people die. Sometimes we're going to die. I mean, that's a fact. So we have to have an answer to that fact. What do you expect of you after death, after dying? Do you expect that nothing is behind, or you expect that there's a heaven to conquer from this life? That is an important answer. I mean, if you're not in danger, if you're not in immediate danger, you don't think about your death. But if you're kidnapped, I can tell you that you think a lot about your death. When you're in a plane and suddenly the plane starts just cracking down, then you think about your death. No, if you have a deep illness, then you think about your death. If you have cancer, then you think about your death. Well, without having to be in a plane and without having to be kidnapped, you have to think about your death, and you have to think, what is your attitude to that? Because that's an important decision you have to make, and that's an important decision you have to live with all the rest of your life. So if you decided not to think in heaven, that's totally okay. That's your decision. Forget about faith. But if you do have faith, and if you do believe in heaven, and do you believe you have to conquer heaven, there's a reason for you of a strength. Be strong in your faith. I mean, start working on your faith, because that's a reason to live, because you want to conquer heaven. But that's on your decision. You have to make that decision. That's okay with me if you decide no or you decide yes. What I think, you have to make a decision whether yes or whether no, because there are many people that live in the middle. There's many people that, there's a lot of years before I die, but you never know. There's people dying at all ages. We don't have life forever, and I think the responsibility is just to make a decision. How are you going to live the rest of your life, considering if you believe what is the end at the end of your life? So that's up to you to answer. For me, it's an important thing, because I live every day thinking that life is not the end. For me, death is like a door that goes from one side to another side. And I want to be ready, and I want to be happy, and I want to be in the good side, in the other side. So that's my thinking, and that's the way I live my faith.
Thank you very much. So could we actually say that faith is equivalent to happiness, that longing for happiness?
For me, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So at this point, we'd like to thank Architect Bosco Gutierrez. It was such a powerful talk, and we learned a lot from you, sir. And really, you're the best person to talk about the power of resilience, and also to talk about the real basis of resilience, which is faith. And so at this point, maybe ask for your final words.
Well, I just thank you very much for the opportunity to share my story with you. I'm very proud of reaching countries very far from me right now. It's incredible. I'm talking to Manila, I'm talking to Taiwan. I feel myself like part of one world. I truly believe that God is our Father, that God is protecting us. Feel yourself loved, feel yourself protected. Just act in consequence to that love, and try to take advantage of the life that you have. There's much more positive things than negative things in your lives. And there's people suffering much more than yourself right now. So think about those people. Enjoy your life as much as you can. Fight back as much as you can to your happiness, to your personal happiness, and start by the ones that are around you. Try to reach the others by phone, and try to pray for the other ones you cannot reach. Well, thank you so much for your invitation.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. And so let's all turn on again our videos and give Architect Bosco Gutierrez a double thumbs up to thank him and say thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bosco.
Thank you very much.
Gracias, Mr. Bosco. Muchas gracias.
El Señor es mi Padre.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, God
El
bless.
Señor es mi Padre. Y me ama. Me ama a todo el mundo.
Sí. Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Very inspiring stories. Very inspiring stories.
Thank you so much.
That's it. That's it for this. It's just the first part. So wait for the afternoon session. We also have powerful stories and activities for you. So please stay tuned. And thank you for joining us. Thank you very much, sir.
Adios.
I'll call you after this.